since the collapse of the Soviet Union, the world seems to settle into the ultimate political system. I don't think so. I beg to differ. Let me explain. The current Western-style democracy plus capitalism is showing all the flaws that is coming up now. First of all, election. In terms of election, that implies when we elect a leader, the leader have a certain term of office. They can work within that time frame. After that, there will be another election to give other people opportunity to get elected again. Now, this limited time frame, say 3, 4, or 5 years, is 3 or 5 years, okay? And therefore, in order to get elected, they will want to be able to do something within this limited time frame so that they can get elected again. What can they do? Well, if anything which extends more than this 3 years into the future, no, that will not has a very high priority because they wanted something demonstrable in this period. An example is the Australian trying to build the fiber network, the National Broadband Network. The Labour government started it. Then, by the next election, they lost. Our current government is stopping it. Well, we all know that a good communication network is essential for the current information era. But their ideology or whatever why they make up that decision, they stop it. So, with election, with democracy, we cannot expect our government to do projects that require longer than the term of office. On the other hand, we do not want to give our political leaders very, very long term of office because by then they will have built sufficient political power that they will potentially become dictator. So we don't want to do that as well. So how to solve that problem? I don't know. So that's one problem. The second problem is that all elections cost money, lots of money. For example, I heard that Obama spent about $1 billion in his re-election. If that is the case, it is a lot of money. But nevertheless, we all know that election costs money and politicians depends on political donations to get elected. What is these political donations? Well, these political donations is a better name for bribe. People pay you money in order to influence your decision for the public. That is bribe. But it's called political donations. So if you want to get re-elected, you better do what I expect you to do. Otherwise, I will withdraw my donation for your next election. A case in point is why US is spending so much money in defense. They have a huge military industrial complex. This military industrial complex has 500 to 600 billion dollars spent in that industry. Let's say this industry take 1% of their income to do public relation, to try to change the opinions of the elected officials in their favor. So that will amount to 5 to 6 billion. But at the moment, the US Congress and the House of Representatives have about 530 something, 35 people involved. So divide that $5 billion to $6 billion among the 500 plus congressmen and representatives. The military-industrial complex can spend about $10 million per year on each of these congressmen or representatives. No wonder they buy whatever influence they need. They have the money to buy that. Is that good for the general public? I don't think so. But that is the political reality today under this kind of Western democracy. The other side of the problem is the capitalism, the free trade. Capitalism means there are powerful wealth centers. The objective of these wealth centers is to make more wealth. There's companies. International companies is making money as much as they can. That's the purpose of company. But at the same time, if they can spend as little as possible, the profit will be bigger. One way to spend less is to pay less tax. That means minimization of tax. One way to do that is create an empty shell company in some remote countries where they have next to nothing in terms of tax requirements. So you post your profit into that company, and hence wherever your real company exists, that company in the real existence is not making money because all the profit has been transferred to there. So the government in which your company exists do not get the tax. Well, government need money to operate. Government is here to build, to do projects that individuals cannot do. That means government needs huge sum of money. When the business is not giving or providing the tax, then either the government get the tax from the people or to borrow. Let's look at the first scenario. Well, the government do try to squeeze as much tax as possible from the population. But raising tax is almost certain to get you unelected. It's not a popular choice. You will do some squeezing, but after squeezing, you will release a little bit, you're going to get elected. That's what our current Australian government is doing. They, in the first two years, they will try to squeeze. And then in the third year, they will relax and give you the illusion that they are helping the poor, and then try to get elected again. That's the reality. The second way of doing that is by borrowing. So government borrow money. Where they borrow from? Well, the rich. Remember, the rich, through their political donations, is buying a lot of influence. When you are borrowing from them, you are basically giving them more political influence. So they will try to change the law in the way to benefit themselves. Human greed, quite natural. So this election really is a big problem. And the company themselves, the sole purpose of the company is to make money for the shareholder instead of the employees of the company, is the other kind of the problem. So to solve that problem, we have to look at how can we provide an incentive so that the company is socially responsible. But what is socially responsible? Socially responsible meaning giving good lives to the people in the society. Okay, how to do that? I don't know. But an economist, Richard Wolff, has some suggestion along the following lines. So let me try to describe something to you, see whether it makes sense or not. Let's start looking at the time which we spend most of our waking hours. That means the work. At the moment, most of us do not have democracy in our workplace. We are told to do something and we do it. Decisions are made right up there, whether good or bad. We have no influence to that decision. So in the case of the car building industry in Australia, the car manufacturer decided that it is no longer profitable to make cars in Australia. So they are going to close down the production lines in 2 or 3 years' time. So the workers who have been working on these factories for 10, 20, 30 years is going to lose their job. That's their livelihood. Well, the company will give them some compensation. Yes. Probably will last them a year or two. So what next? If the government is really for creating jobs, we should start thinking of how to create jobs for these people who have current skills but is going to lose their work because some guy there make the decision to close the work production line. So if we really want to help, we can do something along the following line. Number one, if a company is going to close a production line, the company is going to leave the production line alone and give it to the employees in equal parts. If you're closing the production line, that means the production line is not profitable to you anyway. So the law will say, no, you cannot sell that to the highest bidder. The only one who is going to buy your production line is your employees of that production line. And they are going to only pay you $1. That is law. You can't do anything about it. Okay? With that in place, then the employees will have the machinery. They still need capital, isn't it? Okay, that's the second part. The second part is the government say, okay, you are losing your work. So instead of that stupid idea of asking the employees to be unemployed for 6 months before they claim benefits, by then their skill may outdate. I would suggest we pay these employees their benefits in one lump sum payment at the beginning. Let's say we pay them 3 years worth at the very beginning. But in exchange, that they can't claim it for the next 10 years. And one more condition. All these employees have to group together and then form a corporate to own this machinery left by the previous company. So the employees now have the machinery and the capital, and they also have the skills. So they will operate the production line to make it continuous in production in exchange of no unemployment benefits for the next 10 years. So they have to work hard. Otherwise, if they still lost their job, they will have nothing left. Okay, so what they will do, they will change the production line to produce something needed by the market. That's common sense. Now, the reason why the current production line is not making money or is losing is because they were not involved in the decision making at the very top already. So let's give them that ability to make the decisions for themselves. In case of a company, workers' own company or employees' own company, when they want to close the production line, they are going to be losing work, which they don't want to. So the decision to close a production line will be unlikely, and that means job loss will be unlikely. But to remain in market, to remain profitable, these employees will have to work hard both in innovations as well as in increasing productivity. That is a good thing for a country, a good thing for a society. From the government's point of view, instead of paying potentially 10 years of unemployment benefits, you pay only 3 years. So there is a 70% reduction in the unemployment benefits. That's number one. Let's say we are even a little bit more adventurous. The government doubled the payment. So instead of paying 3 years, we give them another 3 years worth. But that another 3 years worth is in terms of capital injection into a business. So the government owns 50% of your cooperation. But this 50% will be non-voting. The government will not participate in your management, will not participate in your business making, but will participate in your profit sharing. So the government is going to have an stream of income, not only because of tax that the company is paying, but also in terms of the profit made by the company through this investment process. Of course, eventually, the government can sell the holdings either back to the employees or to the general public. Now, what about those employees as they retire? When they retire, they still have that share of the company, but they will become non-voting member because they are no longer working there, so they don't have a say in the company's operation and decisions. But they still have the profit generated by the company to use for their retirement. So the longer you work for the company, the harder you work for the company, the more successful your company becomes, you have a better retirement life. That is a very strong incentive. The other issue is about the wealth concentration, especially in the hands of a few. Well, I totally agree that those who make a lot of money should have the ability to spend the money whatever way they like. I have no objection to that. I prefer it myself if I have the money. I want to spend it if I earn the money. The problem is whether my children should benefit from my effort. I don't think so. When they were growing up, we already try to give them the best we can give them. But they are not entitled to my wealth, even after I die. So, I may have a lot of money after I die, but that amount of money isn't an entitlement for my children. It's better to go back to the public good, to the general society. So, a change in inheritance tax can both improve the revenue of government, as well as creating a more just society. Children born by wealthy parents has already a very good start in life. They have no entitlement to the wealth their parents made. If they want to remain rich and wealthy, they better work hard like their parents. There's no inherent reason why you should get the money your parents have, especially when your wealthy parents has already given you a very good start in life. A lot of poor children doesn't have. A lot of poor children do not have that luxury of having a good start in life. So my argument is we should try to tax a reasonable fraction in the inheritance tax. To me, a reasonable fraction will be about 90%. But we don't have to go that way at the very beginning. But we will have to slowly increase the inheritance tax to give the government the resources to do projects that individuals cannot do. Of course, back to the issue, how do the government knows what to do? Again, political influence is necessary, but the political influence need not come from individual with a lot of wealth, with that inheritance goal, with companies being employee-owned, the employees making profit-making companies, and this company will be able to contribute in the political donations needed to get politicians elected, and therefore there is a grassroots influence upward into the decision-making process. Instead of the current concentration of influence by a few wealthy groups, that make a society much more just and fair. Australia is proud to have a fair go, and that is the way to have a fair go, by changing the law to protect our unfortunate fellow citizens, to give them a new start in life. Getting unemployed, nobody wants to be unemployed. We want to be felt useful, valuable. So instead of releasing our laziness by the capitalism, let's say we increase our democracy, extending into our workplace as well. Please consider my suggestion. Thank you. Bye-bye.